Hello, my name is Danielle Bell, and I have been a caseworker here at DFACS for about 7 years. So my upbringing is all too familiar for young girls living in America. I grew up in a single-parent home. My mother had 2 children, and she was out of the house most of the time. She worked 2 jobs to take care of us, so we were left at home alone most days to fend for ourselves. Because we were raising ourselves, that left the door open for me to become a victim of childhood adversity. Because there was no one there to guide me or to help me with my homework, I started to fall really behind in my schoolwork, and before you know it, I had to repeat the 5th grade. Yes, I was attending school every single day, but I needed extra help, and my mother was not around to assist me with my homework. I didn't know my father. It was just me and my brother, and he was younger than me, so he couldn't help me with my homework. So I started to really, be affected by the absence of my mother not being at home and my father not being in the home, being able to really help me and guide me through elementary school. So once I had to repeat the 5th grade, it kind of just was downhill from there. I started to progress on to the next grades and the next grades after that, but to be honest, I started to get really bored with school. And like I said, there were no parents around to encourage me to stay in school. There were no teachers encouraging me to stay in school, and so once I got to middle school, I dropped out. I no longer was interested in school. No one taught me the value of an education and what getting an education looked like, so I didn't think I needed school. So when you decide to drop out of school, no one tells you how hard your life is going to be. No one tells you that it's impossible to find a job without a high school diploma. So as I moved into adulthood and I turned 18, I obviously wanted to get my own place. I wanted to buy a car. I just wanted to be an adult. I just wanted to live a normal life. But you can't do that if you don't have an education, because you can't find a job to be able to take care of yourself and to supply your needs. And once I turned about 23, I realized I have to get a high school diploma. So at that point, I started to go back to school to get my GED, and I wound up finishing my GED when I was 24 years old. So while I was completing my GED, I actually met a woman. Her name was Susan, and she was a caseworker at the center where I went to get my GED. And her and I actually began a friendship, and she kind of was like a mentor towards me. She was kind of like the mother that I never had. And she started to really challenge me to think about what I wanted to do with my life. I have always been a people person. I've always wanted to work with people. I always enjoyed people, and I've always wanted to help people. So through our relationship and becoming close with her and her really challenging my mind, I started to become interested in social work. So I started taking a few sociology classes, just to really get a feel for what it would be like to be, a social worker, and I really took a liking and enjoyment to it. And so after I completed my associate's degree, I went back to school to get my bachelor's, and that's when I actually obtained this job as a caseworker, working for DFACS, and it has been great work. I really have enjoyed the work that I've done here, and the reason why I wanted to go in this field is because, as a child, I didn't have anyone advocating for me, and I don't want that to happen to the next child in Georgia. The reason why I'm telling my story is because this is a story that needs to be told. Far too often, we experience things in life on our own, and we kind of leave our children out to dry to kind of raise themselves. And I want to bring awareness to the fact that, a child doesn't have to grow apart. A child doesn't have to raise themselves. There are tools and, there are things that parents and teachers can do to help children to avoid them growing up in childhood adversity. And I am here to be an advocate for every child in Georgia.